So in this lesson, we are going to represent and perform reflections on a coordinate plane. Before we do that, we should probably talk about what a reflection is. A reflection is just a flip. Like you see, you know your, like when you see your reflection in like the mirror, it's like backwards, it's flipped. You know, it's different than, than what it was, but in a very backward sort of way, right? So we have this pre-image, ABC, and it is going to be reflected over the x-axis. Like it says right here, flipped over the x-axis, basically. And so we were at 4, 1, 6, 5, or those are our vertices and location of our vertices, and 8, 2. And we're going to flip them over the line of reflection, which is the x-axis. So if you see it, A, which was 4, 1, became 4, negative 1. B, which was 6, 5, flipped over and became 6, negative 5. And 8C, which is 8, 2, flipped over and became 8, negative 2. And let's represent this algebraically first, x comma y. The x's were 4, 6, and 8. They stayed 4, 6, and 8, so x. The y's were 1, 5, and 2, and they became negative 1, negative 5, negative 2. So they're the opposite. So we put negative y. Keep in mind that these were positive, so they became negative. If these numbers were negative, they would have became positive. This negative right here on the y doesn't mean they all become negative numbers. It means they become they have the opposite sign. So if they were positive, they become negative. If they were negative, then they become positive. And lastly, let's show the geometric representation. So for geometry, you want to use a lowercase r, and then you'll put, that means reflection over the x-axis like this. Cool. Let's go over the y-axis. So this is our line of reflection. The line of reflection is our y-axis. And A, B, C. So 4, 1 becomes negative 4, 1. 6, 5 becomes negative 6, 5. And 8, 2 became negative 8, 2. Alright, remember we flipped A over the y-axis, B over the y-axis, C over the y-axis. Now let's represent this using the algebraic rule. So x, y became, so the x's were 4, 6, and 8. They become negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, so that's negative x. Once again, remember that if these were negative, they would have became positive. This negative just means it's the opposite like sign. And then the y stayed the same. And then we would show it geometrically, putting a lowercase r, and then put y axis. Okay, so let's go to the next page. Now these are ones that we haven't done before, so we're going to reflect over the line y equals x. Remember, this is 1, this is x plus 0, so we start at 0, and this is x, so 1 over 1, so up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, all right? So we're going to reflect this pre-image over to this side of the line. So A, B, C, 4, 1, flipped over this line and became 1, 4. 6, 5, 6, 5, Oh, this is wrong right here. This is B prime, and this is C prime. Okay, so B flipped over this line, and it was 6, 5, and it became 5, 6. And then 8, 2 flipped over and became 2, 8. So we have x comma y. If you notice, the x went to where the y was. The x went to where the y was. The x went to where the y was. And the y went to where the x was. So we show this by, like that they switched places by putting the y first and then the x, if that makes sense. And then we reflected, so lowercase r over the line y equals x. And the line y equals negative x, let's flip over this. Let me make sure I label these right. I did the same thing here. This should be b prime. And this should be c prime. Okay, so this was a, b, c. So 4, 1 flipped over and became -1, -4. 6, 5. I guess I'll do it like this. Flipped over and became -5, -6. And C flipped over the line, went from 8, 2 to -2, -8. So it was x, y, flipped over, and if you notice, they switched places again, but they were positive, now they became negative, so they're the opposite, both of them. Like the 4 switched and became negative, the 1 switched and became negative. Just be sure, like I said, if these were negative, they would have switched and became positive. And we represent this as as reflection over the line y equals -x, because I start at 0, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. One more page. All right, so on this first reflection, we have triangle ABC, and we are reflecting it over the line x equals 1. Remember, this is x equals 1. Remember, this is x equals 1 because, like, if I pick this point, it's 1, 3, 1, 1, 1, -1, 1, 9. All these points on here all have an x that is 1, and then the y is different. So, if I flip, well, let's go down here first. A, B, C. So, A was at 4, 1. I'm flipping it over this line, and it becomes -2, 1. This is going to be a little strange. So I'm not going to make you write a rule for this. Not that you can't, I'm just not going to have you do it. The algebraic rule. I just want you to see that this is our line, and you see how this A was 3 units away? Well, from the line, when you flip it, it's still going to be 3 units away. And for B, I flipped it over this line. It became B prime. So it went from 6, 5 to -4, 5. So let me write that down. To -4, 5. So you can see it flip, but it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units away from the line of reflection, and it is still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units away, but in the opposite direction. And lastly, we have C, which was at 8, 2, and now it's at negative 6, 2. And it was also flipped over this line. Before it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units away from it on the right side. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units away on the left side. So like I said, we're not going to write an algebraic rule. Not that we can, but we're just not going to write it for it. And our geometric representation will be, I'm going to write it up there, will be R for reflection, lowercase, and we were over x equals 1. And I'll box that. Now let's look at this one. So reflection over the line y equals negative 3. So once again, let me explain this line right here. So 1, negative 3, 2, negative 3, 3, negative 3, 4, negative 3, 5, negative 3. The y on all these points here is always negative 3. So we were at 4, 1. Let me finish writing this. We were at 4, 1, and now it flipped over 1, 2, 3, 4. It was 4 away. Well, I'm going to do this first like I did last time. We flipped over this, and it went to 4, negative 7. And it was 1, 2, 3, 4 away, and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4 away here. And B flipped over here was at 6, 5. If you can see that, it was at 6, 5. Now it's at 6, negative 11. And then it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 away from the line above it. Now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 below it. And lastly, we were at 8, 2, but now C is located, or C prime is located at 6, negative 8. And we can just do that. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. Oh, that's too many. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away from the line of reflection. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's still 5 away from the line of reflection. Remember that we represent this geometrically using lowercase r, and over the line y equals negative 3. And that is it. Thank you.